Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy, episode number 118 for the week of August 6, 2013. I am Ryan Higgins, back from not kind of being here last week. My cash register works. Hooray! I can accept your money.
I think you announced that on the air last week.
Yeah, you did.
Yay. Okay, well, I'm going to announce it again. My cash register works.
That's going to be the
Hooray!
Weekly announcement now.
I got some people here this week. Who's here with us this week?
Brock Sager.
Toby.
Charlie.
And we have a special guest, an infamous guest, if you will. Good friend of the store, a podcast extraordinaire, as we'll find out. Podcaster extraordinaire, as we'll find out here soon. Mr. Jay Shelton.
Hi, Jay Shelton.
Jay, say hello.
Hello.
Excellent. Jay has been a long-time customer here at the store, and he was recently on another podcast.
Yeah.
And he was like, wait, I got a guy I know. It's like a film podcast, correct?
Yeah, it's Better in the Dark, part of the Earth2.net network. I was in New York with the guys. I was a long-time listener. I kind of phoned in a couple times. And at the end of the show, I was on the whole show. Do you have anything to plug? And I know you have a podcast. So I said, yeah, I got a friend's podcast, and I'll go on, so I have a legitimate plug. And that's what. So I plugged you. I'm plugging them, and it all worked out. So here I am.
We've threatened to have you on the podcast multiple times anyway, because you're a card, you're a character. So
let them figure that out.
We figured no Omar and no Bryce this week, so they're going to be gone for a couple weeks. So I figure we'll have you sit in here too. So glad to have you, Jay.
Oh, glad to be here.
As you found out, we talked about this earlier when we first started, before we started recording. Then when we have a new person on, we like to get their comic book secret origin. So if you want to spend a few minutes talking about, I don't know if you want to tell us specifically your age, but you were a few years older.
50 years old.
Okay, there you go. You're a few years older than us.
1962.
Right.
Halloween 1962.
Wow.
The month Johnny Carson started on The Tonight Show.
Excellent.
The month the first James Bond movie came out.
Nice.
And the night I was born, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane horror movie came out. Anyway, not
all our origin stories are this fun. Damn, you already beat us all.
Okay, I can beat you all.
No, hey.
Okay. But my earliest memories are Batman. I have home movies, 8mm. I was just watching recently where I am probably 2 years old, and my aunt had a home 8mm projector where you'd get films to put in there. They were truncated films, and we had the Batman serials. And I have films of me at 2.5 picking up the Batman cereal and holding up that I wanted to watch it. Not cereal to eat, like a movie cereal.
The movie. Yeah.
And I have films of me at 4 and 5 dressed in my bat cowl, driving around. This is 1965 or so, 66, driving around, wrestling my dad in my bat car. And I watched the show when it was originally on. Funny, I rewatched those recently, in the same episodes that I loved then, I love now. I really thought that the Archer was going to burn Batman and Robin. I was crying to my mother. I remember season 3 when Batgirl got on, how exciting it is that something new happened. So it's always been a part of me.
Did you read the comics? Were you exposed to them as early as 2? Or
no. They were around. But my first memories of comics, I got my Justice League playset, which now sells for like $40,000, so you can find it. And I remember picking up Wonder Woman and saying, "Who's this?" Because she's the only one that was not on the Filmation cartoons. So that's still the ultimate depiction of those characters to me, are those Filmation Superman, Batman, Aquaman, Teen Titans from the '60s. That voice of Superman, like an angry dad, Bud Collyer, is still Superman in my eyes. But my earliest comic memories, I remember on a trip and getting Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams, Batman. I forget the one where he's staked to the tree on the first page. It turns out not really to be him. And I had some Lee and Kirby, those Big Little books, Fantastic Four. It wasn't until probably I was 9 that I remember we were living in Endicott, New York at the time, where I picked up comic book and just realized it was Justice League, the one where the Phantom Stranger joins. And I remember that's when I decided, that must have been 1970, so I was like 7 or 8. I decided I'm going to keep buying these. And I missed the next one. The next one, Elongated Man joined. The next one, Red Tornado joined. And then I was hooked, and it was all DC for many years. And then in high school, someone talked me into Marvel. And that's basically it right there.
Cool. Do you think those serials and the Filmation, is that kind of where it starts?
That and the show all together. I loved Batman. I still, Batman, my first movie memories are James Bond. To this day, what are the two things that get me excited? Batman and James Bond. It's kind of sad that my life hasn't really progressed past that, but that's everything.
Wait, look who you're talking to, okay?
I know. Bond and Batman really at the roots of not just my entertainment, but who I am. I mean, that's everything.
Now, did you keep reading like through college?
Through college, I collected.
Well, in Marvel at that point, it was definitely it was hipper.
And by the time when I was a senior in high school, I remember my friend Jeff Rennie was sitting, who I'm not speaking to these days anyway. We were sitting across from each other in science class, and it just, like I was saying before we started the show, it's not a joke when people say during my time you were embarrassed to be a comic book guy. You really were. Like, you didn't want anybody to know, and somehow we just kind of. I don't know how we danced around it, but it came out that he was reading Conan and Fantastic Four, and I was reading DC, and we kind of got into each other's worlds there. And that was when the Byrne Claremont X-Men were going on, and got into that. And then Daredevil. So Marvel really opened up for me. You had Frank Miller Daredevil. When I went to college, that was really exploding. And I didn't stop to I started college in 1980. Late 80s, I stopped for a couple years, but I got back into it,
So you didn't stop for because a lot of people would be like, oh, high school, college,
no, that's
20s.
One thing. In college, I stopped watching TV, stopped seeing movies, lost track of all that. But the comic books, I still went. When I went to college, you didn't have TVs in your rooms, you didn't have computers, so it really was a time when you went away to college. You that's where that ended. All that kind of you were part of the culture of movies and everything. But the comic books, I would still make my trip to the comic book store every Friday and get my comics.
So I know you've sold your collections a few times, including once to me.
Yeah, in college. Well, in college is when I sold all my. I needed money, and they were hot then. So at the end of college, I sold all my Daredevil by Miller, all my Byrne X-Men, all my Teen Titans by Perez, and probably didn't make that much money, but I don't think it would have gone. Things. The whole market got glutted anyway.
It would have taken a while.
And but my good collection, my 60s and 70s collection. My mom moved to Delaware, and then she told me one day they got flooded in the basement. Recently, it's been going through my head that she probably threw them out and just told me that. Cause I started thinking about that, and it didn't make sense. That would have been my money collection. That was everything cool. So that's gone.
Do you have, besides Batman, what do you like? Because I know what you read, but tell the audience what do you dig in these days, or what do you stick with?
I go basically by a writer. It's so hard to find a writer I trust and like, and I really like Tomase. I really like what Wade does. So I'm reading Daredevil, reading Green Hornet, and I'm reading Hulk because of him. I've really gotten to like Bendis after hating him for years. So I'm reading a lot more Marvel than I ever did. Not ever, but in many years. DC, generally if it's somebody I don't know, don't give him a chance. But if it's Batman and it's an unknown writer, I'll give him a chance. So I'm pretty much sticking with all the Batman titles right now and Superman titles. I like that Scott Lobdell. Since the New 52, it's the first time I felt like this is Superman. I just felt like it was some stranger. He's the first guy. He has problems with his writing. There's a lot of cliches in there. He's trying a little too hard to be hip with the dialogue. But I definitely feel like this is Superman now. And I also think, who's writing... Greg Pak. I think he's captured the character pretty well.
Well, he's going to be taking over Action Comics.
Oh, that's excellent.
Very happy for that.
Really
yeah.
All right.
Oh, sweet. We have a handful of questions here, and Jay, feel free to jump in here if you got some answers on your own. Before the podcast started, Jay, we were talking to you about the 3D covers that DC is going to be doing for the big Villains Month coming up, and I got a couple questions involving this. One of them was from Stefano. He writes in all the time. He says, between the allocations on the 3D covers and the 2D order cover split, I'll explain this all, don't worry. How will Villains Month be going over for comic shops? Great, badly, a wash. So over the weekend, there was some talk that DC... We knew this going in, that some of these villain covers, if you're not familiar with the month of September, DC is going to be publishing all villains books. There's not going to be no regular comics that month. And so what they're doing is they're doing these special 3D kind of lenticular covers. But due to the process it takes to create them, and the paper needed, they actually weren't able to print as many as they wanted to. This is the story. I guess I believe them. Who knows? Who knows?
DC Comics, psych.
I believe them a little bit more before they announced the second printing pack that they're going to be offering.
Well, I'll explain how that works.
I think it's honestly that they're like, we didn't want to spend that much money.
So bait and switch is what you're saying.
Well, so what's going on is that they basically said, look, we're not going to have as many copies as we thought we were going to. We had to print them ahead of time. Order what you want to order, but there will be allocations, basically meaning we're not going to get every copy we ordered. Now, part of that's okay because I know there were retailers out there talking about ordering 10,000 copies of the Joker cover because it's the Joker and trying to play the market and get a ton of copies. It sounds like from what DC announced today, stores will be getting between about 50% to 98%. They said almost 100%, so I'll say 98% of our initial order of the book. So if I order 50 copies, I may only get 25. I may get 49. All right, so somewhere in that range. That, well, for the most part, should be mostly okay because I assume most stores ordered a lot of these. I know the higher ones I actually took higher. The lower ones I took a little bit lower than I initially went in on. But I think we should be plenty covered for at least subscribers and special orders and people that pre-ordered the full set, which you can still do at comicsconspiracy.biz. So I don't think we're going to have too much problem. You come in 2-3 weeks after publication, that's going to be a different story for a lot of the titles. So get to your comic shop local fast. But this is causing a problem because now DC is going to be offering first prints without the 3D covers on the same day. And the reason they can do that is because where they print the covers and where they print the interiors of the book they're printed separately, and they're basically thrown together. So they can print as much of the interior of the book as they want. They then take the non-3D cover, which they had said they were going to do. They said they were going to have non-3D covers available if needed. Well, it turns out they're needed on every issue because every issue is getting allocated from their print run. So those will be available at the same day. And then in December, they're going to offer a pack of second prints of the lenticular covers for people that missed them, including a lenticular cover of Forever Evil #1. However, these will be clearly marked as second prints since they will technically be a second print run. I don't see anyone going for that. I think that's not something I think people are going to jump on. Yeah. I think the people that want them are going to want first prints, and those are going to shoot up to be $20, $30 books the day they come out for a lot of the titles. And I don't see people jumping on second prints. Now, Jay, you would say, fuck the 3D covers.
I go for the cheapest thing there is.
Sure. So
having been in this a long time and seeing things and people get excited, I just go for the story. I give my comics away when I'm done. Yes.
Of course. So you'll be fine. You'll get all the 2D covers you want, so don't worry. But for the people that really do want these 3D covers, I would suggest pre-ordering. If possible, I would suggest getting to your stores early, maybe starting a subscription or some sort of pull list, because here, personally, I'm just going to have to do it kind of first come, first serve. The subscribers have first call. Anyone that's done mail order gets second, and anyone on the shelf gets third. So, at this point, we're good. Even at the barest minimum, I could still cover everything. But I get another 10, 15 orders for complete sets, and that's a different story if the lowest orders are getting allocated 50%. I mean, that means that we only get half our order. Yeah. That may be a problem. But we'll see. We'll see it gets closer.
Well, the thing I found kind of exciting about when they kind of got into this, just because I was playing this through in my head a little bit, the justification they've used to sort of do this is going to be a little bit more because we're having 3D covers or we're having this kind of cover, and then you see it when it's secondary market, it doesn't have that, but it's still the same price.
Right.
Or digitally, it's still the same.
Digital, they'll all be $2.99.
That was the thing I was very happy about this announcement, is the fact that, I was talking about the Superman Unchained. Unchained #1, how they kind of justified that more expensive price with the fold-out page.
Right.
But that still kind of irked me a little that the digital copy wasn't cheaper.
Yeah. And
it's just stuff like that where I kind of feel like when they justify a price increase because they're doing something special, they shouldn't take that price increase to places where they don't.
Where it makes no difference to them because you could charge a dime at that for those digital copies.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that you had mentioned earlier, Ryan, when we were talking about the allocations, is that stores that are do their orders at FOC, not initial.
So basically, stores have available to them what's called the final order cutoff. I mentioned on this podcast a few times. It's called FOC, where 3 weeks before print, you can actually... the week they go to print, 3 weeks before release, you can actually order or adjust your orders on all your comic books. These issues are not going to be on FOC, meaning if you did not place an initial order for these books, you may not be getting them. And if I know of at least 1 or 2 stores that have said in the past, we just place all our orders on FOC. We don't actually place initial orders for Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, and stuff. So if they held true to that, this is going to bite them in the asses. They will get no copies. So.
Can I ask you a question about all this? I'm not in the business like most of you folks are here, except I buy it. But I don't know exactly how this happens, but it seemed like we're glutting the market artificially again by these incentive covers you're talking about, or no?
Well, initially these were the only cover that was going to be available.
Isn't this what happened in the 80s, 90s? Well, the variants and the ordering, overstocking, and people speculating, and didn't everything collapse because of that? Is this a bad road we're going down? There's
a few reasons why that won't happen to the same degree that it happened back then. There are a lot of safeguards in place.
Well, you'll be homeless would be one.
Well, first of all, anyone that was selling comics in the 90s and went out of business, if you were still selling comics in the 90s and you're still in business now, you've clearly lived through this. Hopefully you have adapted, right? At this point, the print runs are so low, nothing is getting multi-million copy print runs. So no one's ordering cases and cases of books. So even at the highest end, we're in such a different ballpark at this point. 2, that FOC basically allows you to adjust any orders before print. So basically, even if I order 10,000 copies of a number 1, I can cut my orders on number 2 and beyond. What happened in the 90s, especially with books like Spawn and Wildcats and Youngblood, the books were so late, but once you placed an order, that was official. There was no way to get out of that. So when people were not buying Wildcats number 2 because they couldn't resell their Wildcats number 1 for $50 the week after it came out, stores had already ordered Wildcats 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and month after, or every couple months they're getting this giant $10,000 order of a book they can't sell and are having to throw away. And I think that has gone away. There's a much bigger protection for the retailers, and for the same point, there's a much bigger protection for the printers and the companies, because if 12 stores go out of business, that could affect a tenth of their print run. I mean, depending on what stores go out of business. So if Diamond's sitting on all these books that they can't ship because the store's out of business, but they ordered because of the company, so there's a lot of protection. Plus, we have things like eBay and other. The ratioed variants, like a 1 in 100 variant, will pay for those 100 issues.
I will no longer fear for your future. Then you've convinced me.
Comic stores are doing okay these days.
You bought that house. I didn't know what to think.
I appreciate all the support.
That's why Toby was crying over here.
I appreciate all the support people give the store, but I am far from well-to-do. Good Lord, I am a small business owner in California and in the United States of America, so I cry every time I have to pay taxes or health insurance or anything. But the bills get paid, the power's on. Mm-hmm. There was a couple lean years when I first took over. Yeah. There was a year or two of some nail biting, and I definitely understood what the previous owners had gone through. But the last couple of years, my personal ordering is leveled out. I've kind of, even when I wasn't technically owning the store, I still did most of the ordering, but I'm still playing with someone else's money. So things
a good way to learn.
It is. It was. So, but most stores are having banner years these days. Plus, the books are more expensive. That does offset the loss of customers. So it who knows what's going to happen next year? Because 2007, it was looking like Marvel and DC were going out of business. It was terrible. Yeah. But they did a good job picking stuff back up, and the last few years have been really good. So,
and I think in terms of what I would call mass speculation, buying issues to try and flip, you get a fair amount of, as you said, sort of the eBay flippers trying to flip it the week it comes out or that kind of stuff. But most people aren't buying a Justice League issue because they think it's going to be worth more.
Yeah. We had... you guys probably remember me bitching about this pretty heavily maybe 6 months ago or so with books like Peter Panzerfaust, and there was a few. But we've Image actually has opened up the floodgates on ordering to basically kill the speculator. Because for a lot of their, especially issue number 1s, we can order most of their issue number 1s, and actually DC started this with a Vertigo, fully returnable. So we can order 100 copies, and if I only sell 50, I can return the other 50. And so that, so normally I would maybe only order 5 or 10 copies, but if I can return them, I'll order a ton to see what that ceiling is.
Yeah.
With The Wake, that's a book I never would have ordered a ton of, but we're selling 4 times what I initially
ordered. I couldn't even get through 5 pages of that thing.
Well,
the last issue was really good. I really liked the last issue.
Maybe I'll skip to the last issue when it's all.
Well,
but
I don't mean the final issue. I mean the most recent issue was really good.
but it is because normally, I mean, I'm basically selling 4 times what I would have normally sold of that book because I would not have known what that ceiling was had I not been able to go. Now they're making Sandman returnable. I don't think you need to make Sandman returnable, but yeah, maybe I don't know. You don't know.
Like personally, I'm going to wait for the collection on that.
Most people will, but we'll still sell a ton of those when they come out. But hold on. But to answer Stefano's question, every retailer is going to sell out of every cover. This is going to be a huge money grab for retailers. No one's going to lose their shirt over this. Everyone's going to sell every issue. Probably a lot of stores will sell
unless they waited for FOC, as you said before.
Some stores will sell these online.
And Charlie brought this up earlier. If Diamond does what Diamond does, and then they short you your allocated copies, yay!
Yeah, that's a different problem.
Yeah, I'm.
Any store.
If anybody hears me yelling one of these random Tuesdays from.
Almost any store can put these books online for $10 the day they come out, make 3 times cover price or twice and a half cover price, and they're fine. So.
I love how you had to adjust your math just because books have gotten more.
$4, yeah.
I love how Stefano controls the pace of this show.
He sends us a lot of really good questions.
I know. I love the guy.
He sent us another one here. This says,
bring it.
As a final question.
And I think I know how 4 of the 5 of us are going to answer. As a reader, actually, Toby, I may know your answer too. As a reader, who ultimately defines who or what a character is for you, the artist's work or the writer's writing? And at least personally, it's 99% writing for me.
I mean, I'm an art teacher. I was an art major. But
yeah,
to me, it's all writing. Yeah.
You and we had a customer named John that was here for a long time.
Coworker. Oh no,
different John.
Okay.
You two always used to crack me up so much because he was a writer, but he was
and
all
he's an
about
English teacher.
And an English teacher, but all about the art in comic books. You're an artist, but all about the writing in comic books. The art is almost...
I think the reason is because any comic book I see, my top kids could do anything anybody does here, and it's just a matter of patience. Nothing impresses me. Usually the simpler stuff, it's more like the dynamics of the layout. I think that's what, as an art teacher, I'm around art all the time. I see this wide variety of art. I studied art. So there's nothing... I think if you're not an art person, you like the ones that look really real or whatever. But, if I like something, it's usually goofier or flashier. But, the writing, for me.
Well, I
kind of think most of our listeners know how I would answer this one, too.
Yeah.
I think that...
Well, what would you say?
I think it really depends on the book and the writer and the artist. Because, I mean, I've read some, like, that 10 Grand is really good, but the art really hurts it.
I've been Doublesmith.
So I think.
Did you ever read 30 Days a Night?
No,
that's good stuff.
But I think
and that's the type of book where the art makes the book. Mm-hmm. There are definitely your mainstream superhero comic book characters. I guess they are technically defined by the art because that's the look and the feel of the character. But the writing is where these characters flourish. Where the indie books, in a lot of cases, I shouldn't say a lot. In many cases, it's a combo or a writer artist. That does both, so it's kind of the same person.
I mean, it just depends on... I think it's a by-book basis, and it also, I mean, you also have to give credit to the inker,
sure.
too, because,
artist, inker,
or non-credit.
Yeah, or non-credit.
You don't notice an inker unless they're bad, usually.
Yeah. You shouldn't notice an inker. I think that's the best thing about an inker. Mm-hmm. An inker and a colorist, I really only notice it when it's bad, and that... But that's an okay thing, because their jobs are to... You're not supposed to notice them. They're supposed to clean up, not take over the page.
There's a couple of books where I would say inkers' jobs are like... I realized this during the John's run of Green Lantern, that god damn there were some great inkers on there that could get the glowing... Like, a lot of that would not be sort of the pencils. It would be the...
A lot of them be a colorist.
Yeah.
But Doug Monkey, I don't know who inked him, but that was fantastic. Yeah, the people that...
But wasn't the problem with that book that there were like 10 inkers per issue? Like you'd read Inker and there'd be like all these names there? Wasn't that the...
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but I mean, I just... I could tell a lot of times when they change inkers because you'd go from
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some titles where I've realized, like, yeah, the inker really helps bring this art together. And
Toby, I know you're a big art guy, but I mean, what defines the character for you? Is it the look, or is it the personality?
Nah, it's everything. I think.
Yeah.
It's I mean,
whole package.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have comics, right? It's all of it.
Sure.
Otherwise, it'd be pictures with no words.
That's
otherwise,
absolutely true.
Yeah, no,
otherwise you read a book,
right?
You know,
I totally agree.
So,
I mean, but you know, at least three of us at the table will aim heavily towards the writer side, but it is a combo.
Here's the thing. I mean,
you are. It does definitely depend on the story, because I would say Planet Hulk, the character was defined more by the art than by the.
Sure.
Well, no, I think so. I mean, there's iconic images that maybe grab you to the book,
Yeah,
but it's the stories that make you remember it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, you could have the beautiful art you could ever have, and if the story is not there, you know, 2 months down the road, you're not going to remember the damn book.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Then, you know, I amend mine a little bit. That it is important. You want the whole package in there. But I think by picking a book, I will pick a writer. I won't pick an artist, unless it's someone like if Neil Adams, I'll usually give him a chance. Or Barry Windsor Smith.
I mean, for me, it's always been a balance, just because, you know, when I grew up, I read a lot of comic books I couldn't read that were in different languages, so I just look at the art, and if they can tell me the story without, you know, without me being able to read it, then, you know, I enjoyed it. So, you know, I'm kind of on both ends, and, you know, I enjoy reading it too.
Yeah, I think it's a fluctuating combination. It's like sometimes the artist gives more, sometimes the writer gives more. You know, it varies per book, but it also varies. I mean, in this genre, especially with the art, it's in, you know, people are going to enjoy art on an individual basis. So, you know, Charlie might like a writer on a book more than the artist.
Yeah.
You know, but you like the artist a little bit more than the writer, but you both like the book.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's all storytelling.
Right.
Yeah. Even if you just like writing is your thing, it's that treat when you get that artist you love who's the perfect Batman or the perfect Spider.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, all my original Dragon Balls, because I didn't read Chinese. I would just flip through the pages, and I'm like, okay, I'm making my own stories in ways, you know. And
you know what we need to do is get silent issues.
Yeah.
And
I actually enjoy some of those.
Those are fun.
Well, no, it's funny because I also watched a lot of TV in different languages where I didn't know what's going on, and I think I told this to Ryan at points. I was like, I find them now on, you know, from people, or, you know, they give them to me with subtitles.
That took us out to shows.
Yeah, like subtitles, and I watch them now knowing what they're actually...
terrible.
No, I know what they're actually saying. I'm like, this story sucks balls.
Yeah.
But, you know, growing up, I made out these crazy storylines in my own head. I'm like, this is going to be awesome. You know, this is what's going on, and he's beating crap out of him because of this and this. And now it's like, man, this is the stupidest reason I ever heard of. So it could go either way.
I got one more question here from Joshua, and then we got a few things to talk about. Though maybe we'll bounce back to do some questions if we have time at the end. It's actually a great question. It says, "What books are you currently reading solely out of habit as opposed to actually enjoying them?" Well, Jay, you are the first to drop a book.
I've made it a point that anything boring me, I've divested myself of. So I'm pretty good now. FF may go, not Fantastic Four, the other one Fraction does. But I'm really trying to be good about that.
I think Charlie and Brock are the next two that are actually caught up, so let's see what they have to
Fairly caught up.
Well, I can maybe answer ahead of them since they're thinking. I'm like, I think I'm the worst out of here because I'll, even if I don't read, I'll keep on buying it just out of sheer loyalty sometimes.
There's
Charlie's looking.
A fair amount of books that I would say fall under that category for me. Some of it just has to do with the fact that they're so new. I don't want to necessarily drop them a couple issues in. But, like, I'm still, like, fully caught up on all the different Superman titles. And I finally dropped Superboy. It took me forever, but I finally stopped reading Superboy.
Yeah, actually, I did drop Teen Titans and Superboy too, which I love both the characters in both of those series.
Yeah, but it takes a lot for me to fully just give up on a book. I have to, like, I can handle reading an okay story, but when it gets to the point where it's not that I'm not necessarily enjoying it, it's more that I am actually not liking it, then I'm done.
Well, I guess for me, I mean, I got to thank Marvel for giving me the ability to drop books easily.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah.
It's no longer funny, Brock.
It's always funny.
No.
Because it's always.
Bryce is swearing somewhere.
I think the Superman titles for me, Action and Superman, they just keep getting them because I've been getting them. I enjoyed Superman a lot more than I enjoyed Action, but I guess I'm just waiting for that book to kind of. I don't know.
Just
really
waiting for Greg
me.
Pak to save it.
Even then, it's like, I'm even to the point where do I stop at 23 and not go from there? So
it could always get good the next issue. There's always
they all could.
My stance for forever, and what I always tell customers is, if you don't like a book, drop it, because there's other books out there that you want to read. There's other great books. There's always something. That said, I am horrible at following my own advice.
Yes, you are.
Don't you kind of own every book?
Well, there's that. There's that. But I have a set of books that I take home with me. And these days, it's almost entirely DC. But what I tend to do is I kind of like an all or nothing stance on a lot of these titles. Especially New 52 was really made it easy to sort of cut that line on a book where if I don't like it, in case of something like Green Arrow, I got the first 10 and I was like, this is just fucking abysmal, and I just couldn't deal with it. So I brought back every issue, and that's one where I'm perfectly happy to start getting at 16 or 17, whatever the first issue was
17?
by Jeff Lemire.
I don't think it was that much of an improvement.
Oh, Joe, what were those first handful? Oh, yes, it was. If nothing else, Andre Sorrentino, he's an amazing, well, for me, an amazing artist. I love the guy's art. Deathstroke is a rare book where I actually just went, nope, and I cut out the Rob Liefeld issues, and I just picked it right back up when he left, because I like the character. I like Deathstroke.
It didn't improve much after that.
But it's not Rob Liefeld, so it improved at least a little
my thing
bit.
is, if I find myself when I'm sitting down to read my comics, if I have that dread in my stomach when I get to one, then I start cutting it. That's what I do. As soon as I get that,
but what
I've physical thing to happen to me, Jay.
Yeah. But what's happened with most of the New 52 books is, once I drop a book, I'll take all the issues back to the store, just I'm done with them. I don't want any of them. So it's rare that I actually cut. For me, it's I think I'd be pretty hard-pressed to not buy a Batman or Superman ongoing title, because, unless they said just the absolute worst creative team was going to be the ongoing writer forever, I could deal with 6 crappy issues if I'm going to get another couple years of good issues. And I do like to keep up on some of the continuity. For the books I don't buy, sure, for a lot of the Marvel and a lot of the indie stuff, and for the DC stuff I don't buy, if it's bad, I just stop reading it, because...
You bring books back into the store. Do you read comic books on the toilet?
I choose to not
Jesus
confirm
Christ,
or
I'm
deny
never
that
going
answer.
Anything having to do with bowel movements in the bathroom, Ryan gets weird.
I get very weird about knowing he did that.
I take books into the shitter all the time. I'm like, freedom,
but it's
nobody's
private.
around.
It's quiet. I would put them back on the shelf.
They go in the back issue bins. Don't worry.
It's not like anybody's going to know you do that.
Well, I think to go with what you're saying, just dropping books, I couldn't even get past 5 pages of the movement on that last issue.
We trying to make a movement during the movement?
No.
I guess this is something that years and years and years ago I kind of realized, which is when I would start dropping books, is the tighter money would get, and I would start looking at my collection and being like, okay, I'm fully up to date on this story because I'm excited for every issue.
Yeah.
But I have 10 issues of this that I'm now behind on because I can't seem to...
Well, for years, especially when I was working here on a less official basis, and then early years when I was, and I was just taking one of everything, because why not, right?
Yeah.
But I definitely found that I was purging the hell out of that. And even when New 52 started, I was like, I'm going to get everything. And I was like, no, I'm apparently not getting everything, because this is a bunch of garbage. And then it just cut it back. And there's a few where I was like, okay, Katana, I like Katana. Maybe I want to actually get this. And I was like, no, I have no interest. And for me, it just builds up. I have a box. I have a long box. And if that long box gets filled, things have to come out of that long box before I put more stuff in it to read. Mm-hmm. So for right now, it's like, well, I filled it. Guess it's because I'm way far behind on a ton of books. Guess it's time to dump a bunch of these series because I'm obviously not interested. Yeah. But, the ongoing in-continuity titles for me, especially for DC, I'd be a little hard-pressed to drop. The Superman books, as Brock has said, have not been the best, but I enjoy them enough. Yeah, I mean, I'll give any Marvel and most indies at least the number one a shot, but how many actually I could, and most any other DC.
You mean the ones you actually order?
I order a ton, but for in DC, anything I don't actually take home, I'll read anything once, but we'll see if I read number two.
Well, I think that like with the 52, I've noticed like for me especially, I'll get a series and then because they've kind of had like some titles have like quick like certain endpoints like Sword of Sorcery and Team 7 and some of those books that are like
well, that's a mini, right? I mean, Stormwatch is a perfect example of a book that was like complete creative overhaul done with the title. Like I just dropped it and I didn't even look back.
But I think with like the 52, it's like I'll read like you said, you'll read a few issues and if you're not into it, you'll bring them back. But it's nice that they have those titles that only go for an X amount of time. So like for me, with like Sword of Sorcery and Team 7, I read them, I enjoyed them. The second I finished that last issue, I put it up on eBay and got rid of it.
I mean, there's a couple books that I don't think are the best, but even that, like I'm looking at the titles that I do take home. I mean, I guess maybe Legion. Like I've been kind of disappointed with Legion, but it's not.
God, I stopped that a while ago.
But I don't find it boring. I just find it, it's just not the best.
I found that I think they know it's ending and everything feels kind of rushed.
Yeah.
I was really liking that too.
But I mean, I think everything that I'm getting right now I enjoy. I mean, I'm looking up here. I mean, I think I did do a good job of purging a lot of the kind of, sideline books and books that don't really matter, or to me at least, and books that I'm not so big on. So, yeah, it's a very good question. All right, we have a very light on comic news this week, but a couple comic-related movies to talk about here. I think we should start with the oldest, and I think that would be Flashpoint. I think Flashpoint was the first to come out of these three. Let's talk about Flashpoint. I'm sorry. Justice League, the Flashpoint Paradox.
I think the Wolverine came out before that.
No, did
it? It came out Tuesday, and then the Wolverine came out.
Yeah, I think it came out the same week.
I don't think
it came out the same
stop
week.
listening if we get that wrong.
because Ryan went to Best Buy on Tuesday,
July
and that was right before we remodeled the store.
Okay.
July 30th, and Wolverine came. Wolverine came out July 26th. No, you're right.
Aha! I wanted to say that the Blu-ray didn't show up in here until this was already remodeled. So.
Okay.
Probably.
Well, let's talk about Wolverine then.
The Wolverine.
The Wolverine. The
Are you sure it's not the Wolverine?
6th X-Men movie. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. You all know him. You all mostly love his naked, hairy body.
He likes to be naked.
He had his shirt off like through 9/10 of this movie.
His shirt off. He had his breeches off a few times.
Yeah. That's good stuff. So
of course, you.
But
would
yet
say
we
that's
still
good
haven't
stuff.
seen the Weapon X him running around naked in the snow yet.
Yeah. Well, they
showed him.
They give
a little in the second one.
They give a little, yeah. In the second one, they had he was at the facility, but they didn't. Right. He didn't have the whole thing on his head. Yeah.
He didn't have the dangle either.
Yeah.
Hey, dude. I saw it.
But Wolverine,
he did.
I mean, at least from my perspective, X-Men 1, and let's talk about this on the Geek Box tonight, I guess, since we recorded it yesterday. A little behind the scene magic there. About how there's actually a lot of hate for the first X-Men movie now, and
which are the original?
The original for the.
Well, I hated that one when I finished watching it.
You're crazy. I know.
I came out of the theater going, "What the fuck was that?"
It was better than most superhero movies.
No. Well, there had not been many superhero movies
even
by
now,
that point.
I would say it's better than most. It's hard. I thought the second one was great, but that's hard to rewatch now. Though there's a lot of silly stuff in there.
Well, there's a lot of kind of retro hate for the first one. Toby aside, there was a lot of people that loved it that now hates it.
That's okay. I still love it.
So for me,
I love it.
For me, I think you have the first X-Men and X-Men 2 were both good to great.
Yeah,
but then. We're not talking high film here. We're talking comic book
I thought
movies.
X-Men 2 was very good.
Yeah. X-Men 3 and Wolverine Origin. Now, Jay, you actually have.
And I usually hate everything.
Well, I should preface this real quick. I would call you a movie guy over anything else.
Yeah.
And your top 10 lists tend to not Oscar
every year,
not Oscar bait stuff, but very thought-provoking,
films,
interesting
pictures.
Sometimes it's a superhero film,
sure,
usually not.
Sure,
and Wolverine Origins was on there.
But you tend to be a cut above your average film goer. At least I feel.
I mean, I'm more picky, I guess. I don't
Sure.
know.
But you actually kind of liked Wolverine Origin and X-Men 3.
Well, X-Men 3, I'd heard all these terrible things. I went in with a bad attitude, and I think that was it. I expected to hate, and I go, this was a fun movie. I liked it. Was it great? No. Did it make my top 10 on the year I do every year? No. But I had a good time watching it as much as the other two. It was fun. Wolverine, I did not see. The origin one, I did not see in a theater because I just had such low expectations. I'd heard crap about it, and I put it on one night. And again, up until he's blocking Cyclops' thing, that was a little too much for me. I had fun watching it. It was a fun movie, not great, but they both were more enjoyable than I thought they would be.
Yeah, I mean, I actually did enjoy Origins also, but I have to say I enjoyed the bootleg version a little more.
You enjoyed it because Gambit was in it.
No. I
the no effect version?
No, the no effect version I enjoyed more just because they actually used soundtrack and sound scores from different movies, and I thought it complemented the movie better.
That's cool.
Than it did in the final version.
Well, for a lot of the people that were fans of X-Men 1 and 2, I mean, that went in really hyped for 3 and then Wolverine Origin, I mean, I think most people found them pretty disappointing.
What they did to Deadpool was just wrong.
Well, but that's... Like, I guess here's the thing about both, I guess, X-Men 3 and Wolverine Origin. They hit certain things you wanted to see, and then they missed a bunch of stuff that you wanted to see, and it kind of just didn't give you a complete what you were looking for.
Yeah. Right.
Well, the best part about Wolverine Origins was that 10-minute in the beginning where they go through the ages. It was bloody fantastic. I love that part.
Oh, yeah, that opening scene where it's like, this is the World War II, this is this.
That was genius.
That's the movie I want to see.
Aren't they in Canada before Canada existed or something like that at one point?
I think so.
I get that? Yeah, before it was officially part of Canada. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, but it's that weird kind of... It almost sets you up to be disappointed later in the film because it kind of gets you that sort of high point of like, wow, this is the kind of stuff I'm looking to see, and then it diverges. I remember, to bring up another crappy movie.
Wait, isn't Avengers like that? The animated Avengers? It was really cool with the Captain America stuff, and then the movie was just kind of eh. The straight-to-DVD one.
The one to kids?
No, the original one. I want to say the original one was
You're talking about the Ultimate Avengers?
Yeah.
The one where Hulk and Thor have the whole thing and he hits him in the head with the axe.
Well, I don't remember that much. I think I stuck it out of my memory.
It was okay, but I mean, another good example of this kind of thing I kind of felt was the Elektra movie because they released that first few minutes even online and like everybody was going crazy for that first few minutes where she goes and kills somebody. And then the movie diverges into something completely different.
Something they didn't know what it was. It wasn't a chick flick. It wasn't an action movie. It's something.
And I kind of feel like the X-Men movies in general have kind of had this problem to a degree where they kind of start out with this is kind of what people are looking for, and then it diverges. I felt that's how like Origins was. It started out very like this is what people are looking for, and then they told a completely different movie after that.
Well, X-Men First Class to me was just shocking because I went in. Maybe it's because I went in with so little or zero expectation. I loved First Class.
First Class was good.
That's my favorite one of them all.
I liked it. I think that and X-Men 2 are tied for my favorite.
To me, it's way above X-Men 2.
I wouldn't say that.
I don't care.
I thought it was good. I think what you're saying is, Charlie, is I'm kind of torn between that. Is that you have these fan expectations that they hit these marks, these class, and we've talked about this before. You want to see this iconic thing. You want to see this iconic thing. Is that kind of where you're going at?
Well, yeah, they kind of give you that.
And then sometimes if you don't get that, you feel cheated. But then on the other hand, you get something like Superman Returns where they hit they crossed every T, hit every dot. You had every iconic shot you wanted. They forgot to put a movie under it or anything for people that aren't there just trying to get their checklist off. So there is a balance because maybe that's why I was okay with the Wolverine movie because I don't give a crap about Deadpool. I don't care. But characters I care about, I understand they have to change, but there's certain intrinsic things that are going to bother me if they aren't there. So maybe that's how you felt about that. Batman in armor, I'll never get used to. It bugs the hell out of me.
Well, to me, it's just that it's the beginning of the movie almost feels like the sort of selling point where they kind of get you all that stuff that they're trying to sort of be like, this is what we can make a great movie of showing all this stuff. And then once they've kind of hit that, they kind of go, okay, but now we need to put together a story after that to kind of wrap it up. And I kind of feel like that's like the beginning of Wolverine Origin was fantastic. I love seeing all that stuff. I wish it had been sort of drawn out a little bit more to sort of make more of the movie that
could have been the
stuff.
movie. That should have been the movie.
But then you kind of got into this more sort of vendetta between him and Sabretooth and like their old, and it just.
Well, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's talk
about
let's talk about the Wolverine instead.
Okay. But
because if we could talk about how bad Wolverine or disappointments of Wolverine origin.
Sure, I'll segue right into the Wolverine.
Okay.
This is where I think the Wolverine did a much better job because it stayed consistent for me through the entire movie. There wasn't really a...
I would disagree, but I know what you're saying.
But I kind of felt like the movie stayed with the story more, basically.
Yeah,
it didn't really have stuff in there for sort of the sake of this is what people would... I'm not explaining this very well.
I understand.
It just felt more like a consistently well-told movie through it to me.
Well, at least from my perspective, this is another case of me going in like X-Men First Class, where I heard a few people say, hey, this is actually okay. And I was like, whatever. Wolverine is going to be terrible. And I went in, and it was okay. I personally kind of liked it. I think there were a few problems with it, but I would, if X-Men 2 and First Class are my favorites, and Wolverine Origin and X-Men 3 are the bottom, I would put this right in the middle with X-Men 1. As it's not perfect; it's got some problems, but it's better than. I'd say it's probably not as good as any of the Marvel Studio movies. I put it on level with Hulk. Like it's not perfect.
Is it better than Iron Man 3?
Hulk?
Well, okay, that's different.
And much better than Iron Man.
Which
3.
Hulk?
Much better than Iron Man 3. Sorry.
Better than Iron Man 2.
Which Hulk?
Incredible Hulk. I would put it on par with. I like the
because
first,
if you put it on par with the other
I actually
Hulk,
like the first.
I like
Hulk
the Ang
movie.
Lee Hulk.
Yeah, I actually kind of liked it. It's got problems, but
I think
it's not the Hulk.
I
it's
had
the
bigger
problem.
problems.
I think that Ang Lee falls under the same thing as Wolverine Origins. There are some things in it that you like, but then there's other things.
But
that are
if you're looking for your
disappointments.
traditional Hulk, it's not. There.
No, it's
you
a very
take
different.
it as something else.
Yeah. But no, it follows the Wolverine origin, or it follows the Wolverine miniseries fairly close to. I mean, it follows elements of. Jay gave me a.
Yeah, I was going to say what?
It follows.
What Wolverine did you read?
It follows elements of that story. More, I would say, more than most comic book movies, because we were talking about this last week, or we were talking about the Geek Box. I can't remember what I was talking about this. Very few comic book
you weren't
movies.
even on here last
No,
week.
I know. Very few comic book movies follow any story. They're inspired by.
Let's be honest here. I mean, do we really want it to be identical?
No.
That's the trap with something like Watchmen, because if you do it perfect, you go, what the hell was the point?
Yeah.
And if you change some key things, you're saying, why are you changing a classic?
Well,
So you're kind of lost doing that.
Yeah.
Watchmen and 30 Days a Night and Scott Pilgrim are the movies that follow the books as closely. They don't follow them exactly.
300.
Sin City 300.
But I
that
think
style.
Watchmen's mistake was some of the key stuff they changed were fundamental to the outcome of that story and thematically for that story.
But it's like, okay, Batman Begins has elements of Year One, but none of the superhero movies have really followed a story.
I don't think you need to.
No, I don't think you need to either.
When you don't. That's why I don't read some of the books. That's why I don't read some of the graphic
But this
novels
follows the Wolverine miniseries more than any other comic movie has followed another comic.
And I'm not. I don't want to be like somebody saying they should have done it this way. In a bigger concept, but. My problems with it. I mean, I liked it. I did like the Wolverine. I saw it today, and I was like, I knew I wasn't going to like the whole Silver Samurai at the end. It looked so goofy in the previous, and like everything else.
We'll go back to it, but Silver Samurai is one of the bigger problems. I have with the movie.
Every superhero movie you see, and I think maybe this will wear down and this will end. This phase that the third act has to be this cacophony of noise. Ruined Iron Man 3. Really turned Man of Steel to crap for the last third, as far as I'm concerned. It was just visual noise. Not so much in this one, but still, I knew I'm just sitting there waiting for that clang.
Tell me this: if the last fight had been a slightly longer fight between him and the father,
that's what I'm getting to, because the comic ends where he fights Shingen,
right?
And Wolverine. Can I just digress a little bit about Wolverine? Yeah. To me, that miniseries was the last great Wolverine. Like I said, that was my time, and I found the X-Men. Wolverine was only in X-Men comics. There was one X-Men comic, and you never saw these guys anywhere else. There weren't 20 titles a year. Wolverine was not always the star of the comic. Wolverine would usually get bested in a one-on-one against Cyclops. Wolverine would get shot up, it would take him maybe an issue to heal. It wasn't like he was the superhero. That comic book that was based on, he lost to a guy with a sword in the first or second issue and had to go back and beat him again. I wish they stuck to that. You know, like you said, everything's 10 or 1 now, and when people rate things, it's kind of like with the powers. Either they make him invincible, or they had to make him where he doesn't have the healing factor. I would have liked to seen something where he has a mild healing factor. And seeing the final battle. They
try to play that up in this a little bit.
But I think you're exactly right. If they had stuck with Shingen at the end, and they had their fight to the death, and that was the battle, and Wolverine maybe was going to lose. Not that he could get I think a stab to the heart should be lethal for Wolverine. After that miniseries is when he took off, and suddenly we had all these miniseries, and there were more X books. That's when Wolverine was never the same again. Once he became the character that couldn't die, and the character that couldn't be beaten, and the character that heals from anything. You know, he used to be, he'd get cut, you know, it would slow him down a little. And so that series, I wish they stuck a little closer to it, because that was the interesting Wolverine.
I mean, there have been comics where they have
his
literally...
healing factor has gone away right now in the comics.
Wow. Okay. But there have been points in the comics where he's literally been like atomized, and a point of like a drop of blood has reformed him. And that's like, okay, that's Lobo. Like, that's not Wolverine. That's crazy. That's
better
not
character. And yes, I think that would have been what you're saying would have been and the Viper character. I'm convinced the only reason she's in there because they were afraid American audiences couldn't take one white main character to hang on to. I'm sure that because you had two really strong female characters, you did not need her. She wasn't interesting. She's like every female character villain that's sultry and kind of says pissy things. There was nothing deep about her.
Well, here's the problem with Viper. You know, I mean, Viper, right? Lady Viper, right? I mean, the actual
character
villain, right, with the green hair and everything like that. So this was. I'm assuming they wanted to use her because she's been in various of those various Wolverine stories with the hand. They couldn't use the hand because they don't have access. They don't have access.
Yeah, they
to the
only
hand.
have mutants.
Right. So they basically made a new character named Viper. So she's just. I mean,
white blonde lady.
She is the fill-in for Lady Viper, but she is not the same character in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of a gruesome death with her. That was a little. That was pretty crazy. Where they string her up and she goes up the elevator and they snap her neck and all that. It was a little crazy. But no, had they done a little more like
this movie spoiled for me. I actually
Wolverine stabs some guys.
Well,
that's the movie.
I'm actually looking. I'm like, do I go see this in the theater? Or do I see the much bloodier version that's going to come out on?
Well,
it's a pretty bloody movie. I had to shut my eyes when he's doing the self surgery.
That was a little much.
Yeah.
That I've had to look away from the screen twice in recent memories. That and Prometheus, and it was both involving self surgeries.
Prometheus was much worse.
Yeah. I don't know what that scene is. I can't watch it.
Well, I have a thing with heart, so this one was really bad for me. This was hard for me to watch.
But okay, you know, to me, had they got away from the big super villain fight at the end and maybe just had like a cool kind of samurai battle, I think that would have been a perfectly fine way to end it.
Yeah.
But that aside, I actually really enjoyed the film. It's not perfect, but it was a lot of fun.
But you get to the point when he's all super Wolverine again, and it's just like this, you know, again, to the buildings falling down in a CGI movie. Wolverine gets shot by 1,000 arrows, 1,000 guys with swords. You're just waiting it for it to be over. It means nothing. It means nothing. They can cut him, they can shoot him, they can do whatever, and he's just going to walk through it. So it's just kind of okay.
Sure.
You know?
But I have to admit, I always love that scene in a movie where somebody thinks they have the upper hand, and then they realize they don't. Like, I personally will always love that scene when, like, he injures Wolverine and then watches it heal and it kind of goes, holy shit, he's got his healing factor back.
But like the comic books, and you know, I've said this about Iron Man, are we really going to get 7 or 8 Iron Man movies? Or will the audience get kind of bored at the same thing? You know, how many times... Is it different in the movie? It's in the comic books, they do it all the time. But is the audience the same? Will people react the same way the 10th time he does that? I don't know.
I think they're getting burned.
Maybe.
I know I'm getting burned on superhero movies big time. I did like this more than Iron Man 3 and Man of Steel, though.
Yeah. Well, I liked it more than Iron Man 3. I'll definitely tell you that. Now, Toby, I know you were not a big fan.
Yeah, I came out of the theater going, eh.
Yeah, just kind of or
just kind of
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
before you get into all the details, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I had to admit, I fell asleep a couple of times, all right? You know, I have to fucking point that shit out. I did double-check my facts of Lane who went to watch it with me. That I didn't miss anything.
I was just wondering where you were going to rank it within the X-Men movie, just because I'm wondering... the
Okay, I think worst is X-Men 1. And then... No. Sorry, X-Men 3. Then X-Men 1. Then Wolverine Origins. Then maybe X2. Maybe this one. What's this one called? The Wolverine?
The Wolverine.
The Wolverine. Maybe then X2. And then First Class. Does that make any sense?
I do find
Is that all of
this-
them?
You went backwards, but yes.
I do find it weird that this is almost number 2 or number 3.
Yeah, but it's low number 2.
He doesn't care. For the
I
franchise.
loved First Class, but then it goes drastically down
Can
for
we
me
all
right
agree
away.
that the guy has the role down? I mean, the guy.
Oh no! Here's what I say. Yeah,
He loves the
He
role.
is Wolverine. He's got it down.
I love the fact that Hugh Jackman is so into the character and wants to make a good movie and really wants to please the fans, and he's really down to do anything.
Got at least
Yeah.
one more coming.
Yeah. That said, I think they tried really, really hard to make this movie much, much better. I can tell that they really tried. I do think it's better than Origins. And I did enjoy certain bits. This is where I have problems with. Like, when he loses the healing factor, it seems to me in the X-Men movies and the cinematic Fox universe, the way Wolverine fights a lot of people is he gets hurt, and because he has the healing factor, he just goes closer and stabs the motherfucker, right?
It takes all the tension out.
Yeah, so I feel like in this movie, especially in this movie, they could have finessed him. I'm like, he loses the healing factor. Why doesn't he train in a samurai way? I mean, that'd be the perfect time to do it.
It's kind of how the comic went.
Yeah, it's like, be better than who you were. I'm like, how do you improve on the character and be, have him be more spiritual, have him be a better fighter, have him be, everything. Perfect opportunity to improve on the Wolverine that you couldn't do before.
Jay, you were talking earlier, like you said that you enjoyed when Wolverine was kind of, when he got hurt, it took him like a couple issues.
Yeah.
And then we kind of took this step forward, and he's like, oh, he's virtually invincible, so it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, I mean...
And this is what they did with Wolverine, is they're like, well, the healing factor doesn't work all the time. So that's
No, he loses us in this
Well,
one.
I know. But
Well,
like,
it's diminished.
Yeah.
in the comic books, he's lost it, or it's been diminished before. And that's the thing is yes, he had to learn.
Well, that's the
how
thing.
to
I don't
fight.
think he learned in this movie. I wanted to see him learn.
You're right, because that final fight where you really want to see him that he can beat this guy with a sword, instead he lets the guy shove him through his chest, and he goes up
Exactly
and
my
pops
point.
the club. It would have
Exactly
been
my
better if he
point.
beat the guy when he didn't have the healing factor.
Exactly,
that
my
would have
point.
been a much.
In fact,
better,
I wouldn't have even cared if he didn't get the
Like I
healing
said,
factor back.
the last maybe 15, 20 minutes of that movie feels so different from the rest of the movie because it just turns into a big superhero fight.
Yeah.
The whole Yakuza fight scene and the fight scene on the train and all that, I really liked that. That was a lot of fun.
The part on the train I didn't like.
It was
when they're on
totally
top.
ridiculous, but I liked it.
Because, again, it's CGI when you don't need it. And that's one of the things that really bothered me as CGI. If you saw Skyfall, which I had some problems with, that's a real traditional Bond on top of a train fight. Those are stuntmen.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they have used stuntmen? They had to make it this thing where they're flying along the top of the train.
I really liked the whole chase scene through Tokyo and all that, and it felt real. It didn't feel like a green screen or CG.
Unless you knew Tokyo.
But
that's having some of my friends were like, dude, that the whole location thing is all wrong.
But they
like
did
when you
film,
go that way, you're not at that place.
If you know a city,
Sure.
you watch New York,
Yeah.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
If you've lived in any
that
of them,
happens
it's
all the
always
time.
wrong.
Yeah,
It's
and
always
which I didn't pick
But
on
they
it
did
on.
film in Tokyo, right?
Yeah,
I mean, so that to me is better than I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, so I would enjoy. And again, I would have liked the samurai ending, especially
Yeah,
since I wanted to
absolutely.
see the training. I would have liked to see the samurai
But they
ending.
feel, studio feels you have to keep up with the Joneses. It has to be some.
Well, here's my other problem with the Silver Samurai. While I don't really care that I probably do care that they changed them. I care a lot that they especially since it's in parallel with the first movie, they really, really fucked over Deadpool. I feel like they did it again.
Yeah.
They took a character and go, well nobody gives a fuck about this guy.
Well,
Let's fucking change
Mariko
him.
and Yukio and the father and the grandfather's not a character in the comics.
Yeah.
They made him up. And Silver Samurai, they really just twisted these guys all around.
Yeah.
Do you recognize who played the father? He was the guy that had a fight with and lost with. You will have total evil in you. Remember the guy that fights Sahir? Who's the Iraqi guy?
Oh shit!
Oh, it's Saeed?
That was the guy with the beard. They had a massive fight. That was the guy.
it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because something was ringing true the way he was talking. That's the guy.
You may be right. I'm going to go look
am
at
right.
that.
I know I'm right.
Huh. Okay. There you go.
Hey, to skip,
Lost.
this was one of the few times where the little zinger, mid credits, actually set up
Oh,
I won't say what it is.
No. Well, okay. Well, first of all, no, we will talk about it. We're going to spoil it.
Well, you don't want to go to that yet.
But no, we will. But I have a funny story about that. But yeah, so we're going to spoil the after credit thing.
I wasn't going to say. I wasn't going to say what it was. I'm just saying that one actually works.
No, we can talk about it.
No. Especially after the Comic-Con propaganda posters and promotions.
Right.
I think everybody knows what's going on.
Well, so here's the thing. So I'm watching this scene, and in the scene, Wolverine. It's like 2 years later, and Wolverine's walking through an airport, and he's getting a pat down and all that. Funny joke. And they show on the screen. They show the Trask
because he's metal.
Right. They show the Trask technologies or whatever, or Trask security or whatever they say, and they're showing the Sentinel stuff, and it's like, oh, hey, what's going on? And then everything stops, and Magneto comes out of nowhere with his powers, doing his thing, and then Professor X rolls up on his little chair. Right. Well, right. Older Magneto and Professor X. So I'm watching this in the theater, and I'm like, okay, it's Magneto and Professor X. And I apparently completely forgot the plot of X-Men 3, that Magneto was powerless. Or you're led to believe Magneto's powerless and Professor X is dead. Although at the end of the movie...
If you sat through the credits in that one, you would know.
They sort of... But...
And if I recall, Magneto was like the way they do this kind of stuff in movies is always very typical. Like at the end of the movie, they show Magneto being able to affect, I think, like a metal chest piece or something.
Yeah.
Like that he's slowly gaining his powers back.
So to me, this ending thing was like, and like, okay, and then I was like, oh yeah, they're supposed to be dead, and he's okay, well, whatever. Like, okay, like. Magneto's dead in the comic books, or powerless, and now he has his powers. And Professor X is still dead in the comics, but when he comes back, it's like he was never dead. You know. So.
I don't think that for me was what was so exciting. I mean, it wasn't really exciting, but just the fact that knowing what the sequel is going to be, it's just that they're there together. That was the thing. I think is that Xavier's alive. Just that Xavier and Magneto are together after all this crap. And something really bad is going to happen and come down, and we know what that is.
So I assume that Days of Future Past is the X-Men First Class and modern day.
Oh, yeah.
We
are
in
seen photos from it and such?
Right, but I mean, I didn't know if they were going to do, like, jump forward ahead of time and be like, oh, it is kind of like a post-apocalyptic future, or if this is the post-apocalyptic future is today. And then the X-Men First Class guys
and it could be a total fake poster that fans made, but I want to say I saw one where Wolverine's splitting in the middle and there's an old Wolverine.
So
I don't know if that was official or if that's a fan project.
I think that's real. No. But it could be like, because this movie says 2 years later, so they could go like 2 years later and fucking everything's destroyed, right?
I got to tell you, I'm probably the only one that was collecting when that came out. Man, was that exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know. And like I said, there was only the X-Men book, and it was only of 2 issues. They could do everything. That was exciting. And that was before, I think, anybody else did that. I mean, you always had, DC always had these alternative Earths, but that thing where 10 years later, 20 years later, and everything's screwed up, that was so cool at the time.
See, my theory is now that they're messing with time, they're just going to wipe out X-Men 3. It's just never going to have happened.
Well, they could. I mean, I'm hoping that's the end game, because I know Bryan Singer had said he wants to address some continuity issues within the movies.
X-Men 3 never existed?
So X-Men 3 is the only one that gave you a cool battle of heroes versus villains and all that.
I don't think he has any plan to take care of Wolverine Origins, but I think he's going to take care of X-Men 3.
As long as he stays away from Superman.
I think he's going to be like, see, Cyclops isn't dead.
So is there anything else to say about Wolverine before we move on?
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
The at-home release is going to be more bloody, from what I hear.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a R-rated director's cut or something.
That makes me one thing. I don't really like hearing the F word in my superhero movies. That does bother me. I don't like it.
He swore a little bit in this movie.
Oh, he said, the F word.
When in X-Men First Class, when they go to
he does it there too.
He goes, "Fuck you."
That's
and that was fucking awesome.
I don't know why it bothers me, because I'm into film. I'm into really far out film. I'm into films where they say F word all the time. But
I think it's because you're so not used to it in the books. He never says the F word.
It does.
Well,
but
they swear
it bothers
in it, but
me.
we never see it. It's all the little.
It does. It just, I don't know how. Even when they say shit in a Superman movie, it bothers me.
Actually, watching the movie, it actually made me think: if they started swearing in the comic books like a little bit, would anyone care?
No.
Like maybe. I mean,
some parents. I'm sure some parents do.
But I was thinking, like, are we almost at that point? Because the violence in the comics is so outrageous.
Oh yeah.
But it's just taking that step for someone like I didn't really care for the humor in the movie. It was a little silly. It's not really for mature audiences that they add the F word. It's for 16, 17-year-olds that want to feel like they're seeing a mature movie that we get the F word in there. You know, that's what it is. It just,
I remember mature movies like Die Hard and
well, Die Hard's different than Wolverine and Batman and Superman. These are these are for the ages characters. That's the way I see it.
Let's move on and talk about Flashpoint. A little bit. Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox, which came out on DVD, Blu-ray, and Ultraviolet combo pack. Week and a half ago or so. No, 2 weeks ago. No, a week ago today.
Yes,
yeah, a week ago today. So this is based on the Jeff Johns written Flashpoint miniseries that is the link between the old DC Comics and the brand spanking new, hip, awesome new 52.
Where everybody wears armor.
You mean the rejiggered 52?
I said awesome. Flash needs armor. I said Superman needs armor.
I said
Everyone
awesome.
needs collars.
I said awesome just for Jay.
And the Hulk and Superman have armor. What kind of world are we living?
But the Hulk has had armor from before.
And it was stupid before.
Hulk has had a gun. Why does Hulk need a Tommy gun?
No, but right
for?
now it's not just temper. It's this thing now. Superman and Hulk are the two characters that should never wear armor. Batman should not have armor.
Well,
He's like, Flash is the Flash. He should not have armor. It is. I can't wait till you guys all look back at this in 10 years and go, that was stupid, because it is freaking stupid.
Well, they've addressed the Hulk armor thing.
Well, they can address it all. You know, that's what these guys get paid to do. They can. Well, I'm not saying they can't come up with any shit excuse they want. That's what they do for a living. But it's stupid to have the Hulk in armor and Superman in armor. It is nothing. In the Flash, clunk, clunk, clunk. My God! But it's so he doesn't burn up with the Speed Force. Well, Jesus, I don't believe that people can run that fast to begin with. So you don't have to make it more believable by putting freaking armor on the Flash.
But Superman is in armor. It's a Kryptonian.
Oh, I feel much better now. Thank you, Brock.
It's normally white. It just appears like that because that's how he wants it to appear.
Jesus, what was I bitching about?
I'm just saying.
I'm listening.
You're proving his point, Brock. You're proving his point. But
so at least it's not as bad as that Green Lantern outfit in that movie.
That aside.
Okay, let's get back to Flashpoint now.
Naked Lantern.
That aside.
Yes. So Flashpoint.
So this is based on the Flashpoint miniseries.
John's
Flashpoint.
Yeah, we got it.
Yes. And like a lot of the more recent DC animated movies, these that have been based on stuff, it's pretty damn close.
Yeah.
To the comic. I mean, year one, Batman, Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, that
clearly
was close.
Extremely close. I'm curious, though, for people that haven't read... I think we've all read the miniseries.
Yeah.
For people that haven't read the miniseries or some of the attached miniseries, how this movie plays out, because...
Well, we'll find out, because
Well,
I tried to get this in before the podcast, but I wasn't able to.
Oh, so you didn't read the comic?
No, not yet.
But you saw the show. You saw the movie, then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, did it make sense to you? Because
no, I loved it.
Okay, because to me, the Flashpoint miniseries was like 1,000 different things going on with a bunch of little one-shot miniseries and specials.
Yeah.
But the main plot ran between Flashpoint, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and like maybe like one other book of all these sort of miniseries, and just sort of the background. But if
no, I haven't seen it. So my question, I guess, would be: did they incorporate what Wonder Woman was doing, what Aquaman was doing,
Okay.
a little bit, what was going on?
What they basically did is they incorporated the cliff notes for various things from the miniseries.
And I thought they did it really well.
They did the Batman.
I could tell. I mean,
in 2 seconds.
Yeah, they truncated it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like the Lois Lane thing, I don't think that was in the in the actual Flashpoint series.
It was.
It's in one of the miniseries.
Yeah,
No, that's what I mean.
Lois Lane in
But-
Resistance.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I mean, though. They touched upon it just enough, I think.
Yeah.
Like, even when Lex Luthor and Deathstroke go on their little hunt. I mean, I think that's in the miniseries
I
as
have-
opposed to...
Some of that they could have left out.
have one
think,
question.
No, I think they did that really good.
I have another question. Was Geoforce mentioned in this
No.
movie?
No, but
you
the
gotta
Canterbury Cricket was.
Oh, that's bullshit.
I thought this was better than the miniseries. It was tighter. I think the problem with the miniseries is that you had all these side projects that were great. The Aquaman one, the Wonder Woman one, the Batman one, a few other ones. And then they had to be crammed into that last issue where it was just all no satisfaction. Everything just got sewed up real fast because you're following these storylines that were very good in three or four books.
Yeah.
And this...
Yeah, I agree. Those the Aquaman, the Wonder Woman, the Batman, and then I actually kind of like the Outsider. I don't know if you remember that one. That was okay.
I didn't care for the Outsider one. I really liked liked the Grodd one shot.
Yeah, there were a couple of the one shots were pretty decent too. So, but
this kind of picked and chose. I think I think the Lois Luthor thing that was a little bit of a distraction. I don't think we needed that, but I thought it flowed much better than the comics. Yeah. My probably only complaint with it was the character designs were odd. Like everybody looked like a freaking weightlifter. And the Aquaman was ridiculous.
This is like a very early '90s Japanese anime style going on, and the animation at a few points got really shoddy. Like there was a point where they closed up on the Flash, and I'm like, okay, they didn't draw the face big; they just zoomed into this little drawing of the Flash because you could see like the pencil lines, and it was weird. There was a couple kind of crappy shots in that.
But I think they actually did a better job on this than the last couple of them.
Really?
Yeah, so I thought that was really the weak part. Was the
what's
art.
that, Superman Unbound?
I know you didn't like that.
No, I did.
Oh,
yeah, it's Omar that hated.
I know Omar hated
Which
it.
one was Superman Unbound?
I think
Unchained.
This,
Unbound.
Unbound
the Brainiac
was
one.
the
But I think this
Brainiac
one was way better animated than that one.
I don't know.
I thought they did a better job on it.
I think because I went to go to Comic-Con and I saw this, I stayed for the panel afterwards, and they talked about how they wanted to sort of play around with the sort of animation style, especially since
it's very loose.
A lot of the people from Young Justice worked on this.
Really?
Was it the last 3 episodes of Young Justice?
Because Young Justice looked great.
But it looked like they were tweaking some of sort of the designs. That's why you also see a lot of cameos from people who were in Young Justice in this.
Oh, I was going to say, did every Caldor fan just wet themselves? Because he's in, like, Caldora, the Aqualad.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you had all the Aquaman characters.
Yeah.
Basically, all these characters that they had used in, like, one episode, they're just like, can we just put these all in?
Because that was straight. I mean, Caldor was in Flashpoint. Or no, I don't think he was. Because he was in Brightest Day, but I don't think he was actually in Flashpoint.
No.
But he has no speaking line, but he's in a number of scenes.
That movie went pretty dark too. The war between the Amazons and
way more violent than the comic.
Yeah.
Especially, there's a death at the end where in the comic he kind of just killed, and this they fucking blow his brains out.
Well, I actually like the ending in the comic better for that part. I think that would have been cooler.
Yeah, there's some crazy stuff.
That's pretty dark what Batman does.
I guess this is having read Flashpoint when it was coming out versus. I don't know how I would have read Flashpoint if it wasn't intermingled with we knew the New 52 was coming. We knew. Mm-hmm.
Which this gives us the end of the movie. Yeah. This is the rare movie that has a continuity. Because at the end of the movie, they're in the Flashpoint uniform, or they're in the New 52
yellow things all over, and Batman's got those frickin' stripes. Yeah.
And then after the credits, if you stayed through the credits, they show the boom tube and all the parademons coming out, which goes to the Justice League of War, which is the next movie. So that's the first time they've actually used a continuity in these movies.
But it was one of those things.
No, wasn't Green Lantern and First Fight together? Emerald Knights?
I don't think so.
No, they weren't.
There was no like link between them or anything.
But it's in the same world, same animation style.
Well, it's in the same animation style, but if you really want to start picking a continuity, it's weird that everything. Basically, Sinestro wouldn't have been a Green Lantern at that point if they had stuck with continuity.
Right. Well, this is like a direct lead into another movie, which they have not done.
But I guess back to what I was saying. I found because there was none of that kind of hanging over my head at all, reading Flashpoint versus watching this movie, like I was hoping they were going to adapt to the New 52 costumes and stuff at the end. I thought that would be a neat way to sort of transition towards that. So I was glad for that, but I kind of felt like I just sat back and enjoyed Flashpoint more just sitting down to watch it than I did reading it. Like, when I was reading Flashpoint, it was always very much like, well, this is essentially an Elseworlds. It's essentially a House of M and that kind of stuff. And I always kind of had that hanging over it when I was reading it. Versus watching this, I really enjoyed sitting down to watch this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Better than the comic.
Yeah.
I like, too, that, and I'm almost wondering if we maybe have seen the last of a few of these voice actors on here, too. Because they did get Kevin Conroy as Batman. They got Sam Daly, who is
Superman.
His son, right?
Oh.
Tim Daly.
And they got the Deanna Delaney. Wasn't she in it?
Yeah. Nathan Fillion, Baxter Jordan. So it's like I almost wonder if like maybe this is kind of the last hurrah for some of these guys as we go into the new. Unfortunately, Jay, unless they do stuff that's based off previous material, all the movies are using the new 52 designs.
I just think that it's got to be like that image look. It's going to die at some point. At some point, somebody's going to say, "This is silly. These guys clunking around." One thing, just it's a little bit off topic, but it's related. Why did Crisis not bother me? I was in college. Maybe it was younger then. I don't know. And this did. I think because Crisis, it was coming for so long, they gave us a goodbye to all those characters. We had the Superman goodbye. We saw that world ending. We had the tears when they, so after, the people that followed the post-Crisis universe got to be a really good universe. It was just like they kind of threw this out there, didn't give you that much notice, and there wasn't a slow, it was just boom. All of a sudden, Flashpoint starts, and Flashpoint starts, not even the end of, and you never see that world again. You never had that closure. You never had.
I never read it this way. I would have liked that actually too.
Yeah.
But they did it once before with the 1 year later thing too. I felt like some of the storylines I was following, and all of a sudden they were cut off. And
well, with this, I agree with you. They had to rush endings per se, but for the most part, they had made the decision towards the beginning of Flashpoint, so everybody had 4 or 5 issues.
Well, from what I understand, Flashpoint was never intended to do this. This was a pretty quick decision.
Yeah.
Well, but most series still had a number of issues to try and.
Suddenly, Ollie Queen, the one we know, that great character everybody loves with a beard, the kind of grunt, he's just gone all of a sudden. He's just gone. He's gone from comics.
Well,
gone.
Yeah, but they wrapped up the series they were currently telling. What I'm saying is they didn't chop off, leave it dangling. They wrapped up the current series they were telling with Ollie.
I'm only saying goodbye to the character.
Yeah, Jay wants a more thought-provoking,
and that's why it was so great to have another few months of that DC Universe comic that was out, because you got to keep him there. And also the Batman Beyond universe is kind of that universe still.
Well, because Batman didn't really change over.
No, he didn't.
And Green Lantern didn't really change over.
No, those two.
There were certain family of books that Flashpoint didn't necessarily affect like the rest of
I would
the DC
disagree,
universe.
Rock, because I think maybe not Batman, but his entire family.
Yeah, that's where
over.
they screwed it up.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have that history. Like Jason Todd's not Jason Todd anymore.
Yeah.
Not Jason Todd, the other one, Tim Drake.
Yeah.
Tim Drake.
Flashpoint, just overall as a movie, it was one of the better ones I've seen recently.
It was good.
Yeah, it was great.
It's a lot of fun.
Except for those odd-looking people.
Yeah, Aquaman did look quite. He looked like Eddie Brock.
He looked like a giant fucking.
He looked like Eddie Brock at one point, where I'm like, like the symbiote coming out.
He totally had like that McFarlane Eddie Brock style, with like the flat top.
Yeah, with the flat top. I was like, when's the symbiote coming out? And he's going to turn into Venom.
Totally
We're going to have a new 62 at this point.
Yeah, he totally did.
Yeah, I truly enjoyed this movie. I put it up there as one of the better ones in there.
Definitely top 50% for me of the animated movie.
Well,
I don't really have an order for them for the most part.
No, I just like when you're like, definitely top 50. I'm like, have there been 50?
No, it's like there have been a couple I haven't liked, there have been a couple I've liked, but they all are decent to good to me. I mean, there's only 1 or 2 I haven't liked, and a couple have sort of risen above.
I think this was one of the top 3, probably.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the second one I really liked, because New Frontier, I really liked that one.
That was probably the best.
Yeah, I really liked that one. Yeah. This one is up there for me, too, and I forgot what else.
The Wonder Woman one's good.
Justice League Doom was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
No, I didn't like. I like the other Crisis.
The Crisis one.
That was the one.
The Crisis one was awesome.
Crisis.
The Crisis one was great.
Yeah,
that's the best one. I take it back. Yeah, and that was original. That was really good.
Yeah.
What's his name as Night Owlman? Who was it played the part? The guy who he always has that kind of.
Wasn't Angel from David Boreanaz?
No,
it was.
He was Batman in one of them, wasn't he?
Why can't I think of his
Well, he's
name
talking about the Owlman character, and he was
James Wood
in New Frontier. Who was in New Frontier?
It was James Wood, and just the
it's James Wood.
Existential thing, or
Wasn't
why bother?
Hal Jordan in New Frontier? David Boreanaz? I think that's right.
No, Toby, you saw. None of us have seen this, so it's all you. You saw Two Guns.
Fuck yeah!
Which is based on a comic, quote unquote,
A boom comic. Now let's just put it out there. I was going to watch this movie either way. You got Mark and Mark mouthing off. You got Denzel Washington mouthing off, and there's guns and there's Paula Patton. I'm sold.
Yeah,
it's not going to win any awards, but I'm sold.
For this is another one of those movies, and I mean I could be off, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. This is another one of those movies that was a comic book because they couldn't get a movie.
Quite possible.
And here's our pitch. And
honestly, I didn't know until the day off because
we've seen so many of these.
Newsarama was running this ad where watch a movie and buy the book. And
but I saw the trailer and they're like based on the award-winning graphic novel, and I'm like, fucking.
I just like the whole thing that you don't think they're going to get along for a while. At some point, you think they're going to turn against each other, but then they really come through for each other.
Oh no,
that way. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, and
Jay hasn't seen the movie.
Yeah, well,
I bet I'm right.
He's making fun of the movie. Really, is what he is.
No, I was trying to get in on you.
No, but the dialogue part, I actually think the dialogue is vastly improved over the graphic novel. I think the back and forth. I think they added some of the back and forth in there just because you got Denzel.
Well, you said it's pretty close to the comic.
I think it's very close. I got halfway on the graphic novel. I didn't get finished yet.
Who wrote the book?
You know what? I love the original Lethal Weapon. It's amazing.
All right.
Just saying.
Okay.
Well, this is not the most original, and Lethal Weapon wasn't either. I mean, there's been many movies about this.
Lethal Weapon did start that whole
sure
buddy thing. Black guy, white guy.
Getting too old for this shit.
Getting too old for this
Well, really, what this one's more about not seeming what it is. It's a whole bunch of cover-ups and undercover and dual agents and stuff like that. But I flipped through the book. I read the first couple issues, and I think it's very close. I mean, like I said, if it is meant to be the movie script ahead of time, that makes a whole lot of sense.
You're absolutely right. None of us have seen it, so we really can't talk.
Well, some of the scenes are directly from the comic book, I think, and
that's cool.
Even the looks are same. Even the the kind of yellowy film kind of look that they went for is how the book was colored and so on. So yeah, and even the book ends the same way the movie does. So I really enjoyed the movie. So I'm about halfway through the book, and I actually been enjoying the book too. So
nice. Yeah. No, they're doing Three Guns comic. Do you think? I mean, they leave it pretty open for a sequel.
Easily could be a sequel. Easily couldn't. Be no sequel. It's let's just say if you enjoyed The Loser, you will enjoy this movie quite a bit. I'll leave it there.
God, The Losers comic is so good. I never actually watched the movie.
Oh, really? I enjoyed the movie quite a bit too.
Yeah, comics. I always said the comic was one of the best films I ever read.
And that's why you refused to see the movie?
Does it have any connection to the old Losers? Is there any? Do they even give lip service? None of that?
I don't think so. Not really. It's like a modern day sort of, Ocean's 11 style kind of.
But weren't they a bunch of guys that kind of were together, and then something happened, and they had to come back together? Wasn't that like the plot for that year, The Expendables and the Losers?
It was always. It was all three of them. Yeah,
I only saw one of those, but I know it was kind of the same idea.
And all of them, yeah.
But again, not the most original story, but the comic's a lot of fun. So cool. All right. Is there anything else? I think that's everything. Jay, any parting words?
No, thanks. I had a good time. This is a lot of fun.
Go plug your.
Okay, I will be. Those guys are behind. I taped an episode when I was in New York last week of Better in the Dark, and I plugged this show here, so I'm plugging that there.
What do they do on that podcast?
They talk about movies. Sometimes it could be like they had a Bond series. They'll talk about undiscovered horror films. They'll talk about. They did a series of Marvel episodes.
You should get on when they do Jack Frost.
Yes. That's on Netflix streaming now in terrible full screen. It's amazing. Got to watch it.
Well, anyway, in a month or so, I'll either be on episode 153 to 155, somewhere in there. They're backlogged right now. 151 just came out, so a month or so.
They must actually do work on their podcast because I just dump this shit online the second I get home.
They spend weeks, months editing the damn thing.
You got to tell them. There's no need.
Are you sure they're not editing you out, buddy? Shit, Jay was on. We got to get rid of him somehow.
Basically, the whole show is when I sat down. What do you want to talk about? So it was me. But anyway, this was a lot of fun. I hope maybe I can come back in 2015 when the next James Bond movie comes out. I would love to do that one with you guys.
Maybe we'll do a summer movie special, not just comic movie stuff. So,
anyway, thank you.
Thanks for everyone for listening. If you want to listen to this episode again or any of our other episodes, go to www.geekbox.net or comicsconspiracy.biz. You can find all our episodes there. If you want to talk to us, you can go on the forums at forums.geekbox.net and tell us how much you like Jay. Maybe we'll have him back. Here we go.
Don't put that on me.
Hey, that's how we roped Bryson too. He just hung out here one day, and suddenly he's on like every other episode. So there you go. we're always expanding our cast and rotating around.
Did anybody go on there and say, I really like Brock, I want him to come back?
Well, Brock,
I was in here when that kid came from England, and he was excited to meet Brock.
Oh, yeah.
And I like it that you guys record naked. That's what I really like. I've never heard of this at a podcast before.
Well, it's great because we actually move closer to the windows just in case people want to see. So
the thing is
we do have a lot of wood here right now.
Yes, we have a lot of...
I've always balanced him out, so that's why.
No, I know Brock's a celebrity. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Now we're getting the J now. If you can go on the contact forum on geekbox.net and send us some email, or you can send it to the comic conspiracy at geekbox.net. We're all on Twitter. Well, most of us. I'm Ryan Higgins. Brock's Brock Sager. Jay, you do any Twitters?
I don't do Twitters. I don't even like to have people on Facebook I haven't met with my own eyes.
That's fine. That's fine. That's good. It's better for you.
Yeah.
Twitter went down for about 15 minutes today. I had no idea what to do with my life. I was running around in circles. It was terrible.
It was the best 15 minutes of today ever.
Toby's Toby XI. Charlie is Insanity and Chaos. Bryce and Bryce and Omar should both be back hopefully in a couple of weeks. They are Larson, Bryce, and Comics and Decline.
That's a goddamn shame.
And go follow them.
It's a goddamn shame they're coming back. On Twitter.
We're so going to hear from Bryce. Next episode, we're going to hear from Bryce. Oh, Jay, can't believe you saw blah, blah, blah.
Brock, hey, Jay's one of their hero... Oh, I'm going to totally ruin it. Jay's one of their HeroClix buddies.
You son of a bitch!
Couldn't go an episode without mentioning HeroClix.
Son of a bitch!
Yeah, I've only shown up twice.
I'd like to get beer and pizza one of these days.
We've been told if we don't talk about HeroClix or swear, we have a listener that's going to buy us
Omar
food.
Can't swear. But Omar has to be on.
Any of us.
No, it's Omar can't swear.
That's not fair, then. Okay.
We can swear, but Omar can't.
Go read Brock's
So
blog.
what you're saying is we have to have Omar on, but he has to control the mute button.
That's burnt. You can hear Omar and the other mics, trust me, even when he's off.
Do you bleep? You should just bleep it. Just bleep, beep, 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 beep.
You can go on conspiratobrock.com.
Okay, what episode number is this, by the way, again?
118.
118.
You go to conspiratobrock.com, Comics and Decline, that's Omar's blog. TheInfiniteLongbox.com, that is Charlie's podcast.
I took
Apparently
over.
Toby's joining.
I'm sorry, Charlie's other podcast.
Joining, I just took it over.
News to me.
I'm the new owner of it. Take that. I'm the
And
boss.
listen
Top
to...
enchilada.
You're fired.
Oh, damn. Well, how can you fire me? I'm the top enchilada. You're fired.
No, you're fired.
No, you are.
You're fired.
You don't own as much stock as he
podcast
does.
was going so well. And listen to the Geekbox, the Comedy Button, and Good Job Brain, as well as All Talk, the Geekbox Community Podcast. Go listen to those guys.
Please support us digitally.
Yes, digital.comicsconspiracy.com. And go
Donations
buy
of
some
every
digital comics.
size would be appreciated.
Yeah, go buy some comics. The
Also-
Flashpoint miniseries may not be on sale anymore. It was on Monday. I don't know if it's
And you
on
appear to
sale.
be out of the trade.
Yeah.
Boy, the hardcovers.
Hardcover's in Toby's box.
Yay.
So blame him.
So see, you're out.
Yeah. Oh, and
out.
and we are recording on Tuesday, and next week we will also be recording on Tuesday, and then back to Monday the week after. So
But I want to keep recording
is a
on
long
Tuesday.
round.
Yeah, I like recording.
Oh, he always does long
Tuesday's
wrap-ups.
awesome.
Because I get a short day on Monday.
it's because these guys keep interrupting me.
Makes my girlfriend
I'm just
happy,
trying to
and then
end it.
Tuesday-
Because I want all our listeners to chime in saying it's so much better that we come out
Okay,
on
if
Tuesday.
you can get Ryan Scott to move Geekbox to Monday, move the comedy button to some other day, it's like, trust me, it's a giant nightmare.
Can we just not leave? Can
We're
we just
barely-
set up here before they do and start recording? Too bad you weren't here before us.
we all barely record when we do, so
You
just
hold that microphone like it's...
I was strutting it.
we're gonna wrap this podcast up now. We'll catch you next week.
No,